Thank you.
So Louise asked me to speak a bit about my experience, and Leanne and my experience dovetail, so this might be a bit of a tandem effort here. I started, about 10 years ago, our daughter was 4 years old, and she started exhibiting signs of intellectual giftedness. And I started reading about it and thought it would be good to find out if there was a local support group. So I happened to see a little tiny advertisement in the local paper that this Tri-Cities Gifted Children's Association was going to be meeting, and well, first I sent my husband. He went to one meeting, he came back and said, "You gotta go, I don't get any of that stuff." So I sort of took over from there. And it was really, I'll try to speak a little louder. It was really cool because it was clear right from the get-go that other families were facing the same kind of challenges that we were facing, and experiencing the same kind of reactions from other people that we were experiencing. So things like, you know, people would realize that your child, there was something going on, and know they were gifted, and they would say, "Oh, you're so lucky. It must be so easy for you." and actually, as recently as this week, having a neighbor whose child was just identified and said, "Oh, that must be great. Your kids, you don't have to worry about their homework. They get straight A's." You might as well have said they have clean bedrooms. And at this point now, I just go, yeah, it's kind of not always like that. But the support group was great. And we would meet about once a month, and we would have experts come in and speak, people like Lanny and Debbie, and I believe Marion had been in before. We would once a year or so invite the gifted coordinator in to help explain to us a little bit about their side of the gifted education. And what we found was a sense of community for the parents. At one point we considered all getting together and buying a vineyard. Because it seemed like people were occasionally medicating to get through that. And at the same time, we found a sense of community for our children, because we would have the parents meeting in one room, and then on the little side rooms, we would have kids get-togethers. And that was really cool. First, you got to meet all these neat, quirky, interesting, articulate children. Some of them would show up at the meetings with 4-inch thick novels on Greek mythology that they brought along just in case things got boring. There were other ones who would show up at games night. My daughter was one of them. They would bring every littlest pet shop toy they had, and the boys and girls, they'd all get together and they'd create this complex Littlest Pet Shop survival game that went for the whole night. And one of the nicest comments was one night a girl came out at the end of the night and went up to her mom and she said, "Mom, it was so great. I found another kid who likes things nicely complicated, just like I do." So the kids sometimes found friendship, and it wasn't easy to find a friend. So with these kids, we found that at school sometimes they didn't find kids that were like them. And even when we got together with the other gifted kids, they might have found somebody who was okay to hang out with, but every now and then, one of them found a friend or somebody that they could end up having as a lifelong friend, and some of those kids eventually came back and helped run our kids programs for us as well. And as our children's group grew, so did our parent advocacy group, and eventually it evolved to the point that we had to start an email distribution list. And this was just one of those things that we did out of necessity to share information, but it's turned into one of the nicest benefits, and it was purely by accident. It was through that we met people like Brent Dennis and Heather Treelevin from Maple Ridge in Surrey. We also have Sarah Dakin in Richmond, I believe she lives. And there's a number of parents in different districts that do advocacy groups, and we all network. So it's like a moccasin telegraph. So, and Peter Check, I see, in Burnaby. We've got all kinds of districts. If I'm leaving out anybody, there's Charlene there. So what we do is we try to share information. Parents are really good. When they find something that's relevant for families with gifted learners or gifted kids, they're really forthcoming in sharing that with us quickly so that we can send it out and broadcast that to everybody. That could be things like summer programs that really appeal for gifted kids, something like Bard on the Beach. It could be things like the Satori Gifted Summer Camp, the residential camp in Eastern Washington for gifted teenagers. It could be things like internships, information on when to register for the PIMS math contest at UBC. Things that, just to make it a little bit easier for parents, because we know that parents who are raising gifted kids often are, it can be a little bit tiring, exhausting at times. So anything we can do to help move things along for them is good for everybody. We also put in information for some specific programs, like in Coquitlam we have the Mindstein Challenge Center, in Maple Ridge there's the Think Tank. These are programs that have been designed by gifted education specialists who are turning their homes into gifted resource centers for the kids, and that's another great place where our kids have been able to connect with other like-minded children. One of the other things we try to send out occasionally is information on how the school system works. Do you want to talk to that?
I was just saying in a conversation earlier tonight that when families are first getting involved with maybe finding out that their child has been identified, or they've been advocating for their child to be identified, and starting to develop that partnership with the school and starting to look towards advocating, one of the things that is really helpful in moving in that direction is to really develop an understanding of how the school and how the system works. Because sometimes your goal or sometimes your request might be directed to the person who cannot fulfill it. And sometimes so for example, there are certain things that would be the domain of the teacher. There are certain things that would be the domain of the principal or school-based team. And then there are certain things that would be district level concerns, or the district would have the ability to address. And so a lot of time for parents is spent sometimes putting out fires or taking their ideas or taking their advocacy to maybe the person who's least able to fulfill that request. And so there's a long journey. We've been at it for a few years, Gail a little bit longer than I, but that journey of really understanding who's in charge of what, who decides what, knowing, reading the policy and procedures, as boring as that might be, of your school district, of the ministry, knowing what level you're targeting in your advocacy will help you be effective in your advocacy.
And part of that process for us was starting to attend school board meetings, which we honestly, I'm not joking, they're fun. At least in this district. We like it, yeah. I'm not even being sarcastic. I would go to all of them if I could. And any parent who's wanting to be a better advocate, yes, it's good. Oh, 2 minutes left? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk really fast. So one of the things we do with our information sharing is in Coquitlam, we partner with the gifted coordinator. So she's lovely about circulating our information to identified gifted students, and that helps us to get the word out. She's also somebody that we can talk to when we see a need. For example, there was a need for parents to have better or more complete information for transitions from middle school to high school, because we've got 6 or 7 high schools in Coquitlam, each with different programs, and it's a real quagmire to find your way through alone. So she drafted a beautiful document that goes school by school, lists the programs from AP to gifted to whatever district programs, and she updates it every year and makes that available for us. So that's, those kind of things are facilitated by that partnership with the district. We also, as a group, advocate, we help people advocate at the school level, but as a group we've advocated at the district level. And Leanne chaired a High Abilities Classroom Initiative a few years ago, where we advocated for a middle school homogeneous gifted cluster program, and that went through successfully. Connor's one of the students from that program, and in September the final classroom will be added, so then we'll have 3 sites, so 3 middle schools, and each of them will be having homogeneous gifted classrooms for grades 6, 7, and 8 students. So that was a big success and a great learning experience for us as parents. Something that I think we'll always remember as a huge learning curve for us. So that was one of the good lessons that we took away from this. Another lesson, I would say, was that we've learned the power of saying thank you, both to the district and to teachers, whether it's a classroom teacher or a support teacher. When they do something right, we really try to take a minute to either give them a thank you note or just say, wow, when you did this lesson and you allowed these choices, that worked great for my child. You know, he came home talking about it and he said he loved it. And those little gestures seem to be helping move things along in a productive manner, far more so than...
Yeah, because the temptation is, and as I just want to finish this one point, so as you had said earlier, right, we don't want to get all negative, because certainly we have, as parents, those experiences as we go through the years of different things that are just not the right fit, just not working well. So glossing over that, the amazing thing happens because you can spend a lot of your energy and time, and I know I did for the first few years, putting out fires, addressing this, addressing that. And if you are able to sort of flip that on its head and say, okay, pick something I would like to see be different, be specific, be informed, go to the evidence, develop and surround yourself with a team who
common goal,
and pick one thing and know who to approach, know who will support you on that, and then move in that direction. And it really changes a lot of your own energy to flip it out and take a positive approach, and appreciating the people who can help you with that along the way, because there will be many people.
Thank you. Thank you.